Very happy New Year to you all. This is our first New Year lesson, Lunar New Year, the year of the dog. Right, today we will probably do two short suttas, that is SD 45.11 and 12. Now, SD 45.11 is entitled Kāraṇa Pālī Sutta, the Kāraṇa Pālī discourse. This is named after a brahmin, Kāraṇa Pālī, and the reference is A5.194. So this is from Anguttara. So once we're Anguttara, we can guess this is very likely a teaching for the lay practitioner, for us that is. And the theme is the 5 marks of faith. The theme is wrongly printed on the cover, so if you like, you can correct accordingly. The 5 marks of faith, or the 5 kinds of faith of a lay follower. Right, so it's very good to start the year with this kind of reminder, how we need to connect with the Buddha's teaching. In our current Facebook, you find that people who really like to connect with some of these old monks, venerable monks. And I mean, of course, it's very good to see pictures of Achancha and Sumedho and all the others. You can see some of these people really brighten up, but full of faith, because they're saying, wow, look at all these old teachers. The pictures are like 40 over years ago. And it also brings me back good memories. At the same time, our attitude towards teachers, towards other human teachers, should be proper, in other words, in keeping with the Buddha's teaching, of course. Always remember, if we adore the guru, the achan, the sensei, the teacher too much, then we are stuck on that level. We can never be better than the teacher. Right? So the teacher is not meant to be admired. He's meant to be listened to. So, of course, the worst case scenario is if you follow a teacher, then you end up turning him into a cult. Then you won't be learning anything. You'll be just defending your teacher. If anybody talks bad about him, you'll be very upset. So it becomes actually a kind of disadvantage, really. The Buddha himself, soon after his enlightenment, the first thing he did was actually to look for a teacher, or to be more technically correct, he was looking for nisaya. Nisaya literally means dependence. In other words, under whom can he be a student? You know, imagine the Buddha is still thinking that way, to respect a teacher. Of course, remember, whatever the Buddha does, he knows we are watching him, so to speak. For generations to come, we will be watching him as an example. So he decided to take the Dharma as his teacher. And this is a very important gesture. In other words, no personality cults in Buddhism. It's like a democracy, no king, but the constitution rules the country. So the Dharma is like the constitution. We follow the Dharma, and early Buddhism is like that, where you connect directly to the source of awakening, not to a person. So here we do see a bit of that. At the same time, we see also a deep respect for the Buddha. So you see these two aspects being balanced here, by way of faith, if you like. Okay? Remember, faith is a very important quality in Buddhism, especially wise faith. And we have two of the greatest Buddhist followers, two of the greatest early Buddhists, one monk, one layman, basically teaching us the same thing. What is that same thing? Ironically, both of them declare that it is not out of faith in the Buddha that they became wise. It is not out of faith in the Buddha that they awaken. they awaken through their own efforts. But remember, they're also saying that they practice the teaching, and through the practice, Sāriputta became awakened and became the wisest of the monks. And the other person is, of course, Chitta, the householder. He's the wisest of the lay followers. He's the wisest of the lay teacher. He is one of those rare lay followers who could master the 4 jhanas. So he too says he has mastered them through his own efforts. But both say the same thing after that. They say, after we have awakened, after Sāriputta has awakened and after Chitta has mastered the jhanas, then he has faith in the Buddha. Because he knows this teaching work, he knows, this practice is true, is wholesome, then he has wise faith in the Buddha, right? So this wise faith is very important. So this is the kind of faith we're talking about here. Not blind faith in a guru, but wise faith in a teacher. So in other words, when we look at the picture of those venerable old monks that we once knew were alive, and now they have sent out so many of their monks all over the world, we have a sense of saying, wow, these are really good people. They never asked us to adore them as gurus. They didn't set up a cult. They are reminding us to put in some effort. Now, once you think of them in that way, that means they are good teachers. There is a very nice saying here, which I posted once on my Facebook in the reflection. A good teacher shows you where to look, but he doesn't tell you what to look for. He tells you where to look. Then what do you see? Because if you look in the right direction, you will see the same thing as the teacher has seen, right? So he doesn't tell you exactly what to do. That would be kind of projecting his mind onto you, so to speak, right? So the truth is, in a sense, really out there. But out there is still in your mind. In a sense, it's not yours yet, so to speak. You have not realized it yet, so to speak, yeah? Okay, so here you are, this Pālī Sutta, the Pālī discourse, or the discourse about, or discourse on Pālī, on the 5 marks of faith. It's about 2 Brahmins here, Pālī and Piṅgiyānī. This Pālī, he is a superintendent of work, so he does all this construction, and so on. And Piṅgiyānī is his acquaintance, is a Brahmin. And the sutta is about true faith in the 3 jewels. So let's look at the text. Page 111, is that correct? Pālī Sutta, the Pālī Discourse A 5.194. At one time, the Blessed One was residing in the hall of the gable house in the great wood outside Vesali. Okay, so here we are in a different, it's not Savatthi, it's Vesali, a little further north. At that time, the Brahmin Pālī was supervising construction work for the Lichavis. Now we may see this rather innocuous line. The Lichavis is a tribe who are ruling Vesali. And they are a federation, they are republicans, and you have the king further south. You have Pasenadi in Kosala, and then you have this Ajatasattu in Magadha. Ajatasattu is going to conquer the Lichavis. In fact, after the Buddha's time, he succeeded in doing that. So these Lichavis, they were protecting, they were kind of building fortifications. They were protecting themselves. So you can see this kind of building going on in the Buddha's time. The various tribes, especially, they were a bit worried about the kings who were conquering, on a conquering spree, if you like. So these are the Lichavis. Now the Brahmin Pālī saw the Brahmin Piṅgiyānī coming from afar. Seeing him, he said this to the Brahmin Piṅgiyānī. Now, Master Piṅgiyānī, where have you come from in the bright of day? Then Piṅgiyānī replies, I've come, sir, from the presence of the recluse Gotama. Okay, notice how he talks. He says recluse Gotama. So he's not really a complete follower yet. He's a brahmin, but he has faith in the Buddha. We have a lot of this kind of situation in the Buddha's time. You have two kinds of people who have faith in the Buddha. One, of course, are those practitioners themselves, and there are those who like the in-between. Because it's a very flexible, very mobile social situation in Buddha's time. You have lots of this thinking, brahmin, intelligent, non-Buddhists who are being attracted to the Buddha. So he is one of them. So he says, well, I've just come from meeting the Buddha. Okay, so now Karana Pālī asks Piṅgiyānī a very interesting question. 1.3. What do you think, Master Piṅgiyānī, of the recluse Gotama's clarity of wisdom? Do you think he is wise? Okay, this is a question we often hear even today, right? Someone goes to a talk and says, what do you think of this teacher? Huh? And look at the answer. Piṅgiyānī replies, but who am I, sir, that I would know the recluse Gotama's clarity of wisdom? Indeed, one must surely have to be the recluse Gotama's equal too, to know his clarity of wisdom. Right? So this is a very good answer. So he has deep respect for the Buddha. He said, how can I tell you about the Buddha's wisdom? I mean, you got to really be the Buddha, or have same wisdom that only you know, right? So this is the same thing, you find people who are full of faith, they say, oh, monk A is an arhat, So wow, how did they know? Obviously they must be arhats too. So it's not something we should freely say, especially when, we're basically claiming we can read this person's mind. Number two, we are claiming that we are arhats, right? So in a sense, we are lying. So we have to be very careful of making such remarks. All that we can say, I've learned a lot from this teacher. He appears very wise to me, right? Because when we compare ourselves with the teacher, we always see this big gap. And it is this gap that we call arahathood, which is false, right? So here you are. This sutta is reminding us, Piṅgiyānī is reminding us to really respect the teacher. Who am I to say how wise is the Buddha? Then Karana Pālī replies, 1.4, truly Master Piṅgiyānī praises the recluse Gotama with high praise. So he's impressed. He says, wow, you speak highly of the Buddha. And then what does Piṅgiyānī say? He says, oh, surely Master Gotama is praised by the praise as the best amongst devas and humans. So he seems a very humble person, this Piṅgiyānī. Even then, Piṅgiyānī says, oh, who am I to praise him? But definitely those people like the kings or the powerful kshatriyas, people who praise them, people who respect them, they respect the Buddha. So what he's saying is, wow, the Buddha is really a wonderful person. And so he feels like that there is a distance between him and the Buddha in the sense that the Buddha is highly developed. So in a sense, he regards the Buddha like a guru, if you like. Of course, in this case, you might say it's nothing crazy. He doesn't treat the Buddha like a cult, He's just saying, I don't think I can really speak for the Buddha, basically. And I think this is really good, that sometimes people ask you, what do you think of this teacher? And then they want you to have your own ideas. The best answer is, why don't you go and ask him yourself, for example, right? So these are basically respect for the teacher. Right, then Karana Pālī continues, 1.5. But what reason or what benefit does Master Piṅgiyānī see that he is so deeply devoted to the recluse Gotama? Now comes something useful. So what are the good qualities you see in the Buddha? And the teaching starts here, if you like. Okay? Notice the header. It says Piṅgiyānī's payan. Payan is a Greek word. It means something like verses of joy, verses of praise. Brackets 1. Just as one sir is satisfied by the foremost of taste, so that one desires no other inferior taste. So too, sir, as a person who hears the Master Gotama's Dharma, then he defines what they are: the discourses or suttas, the mixed discourses, these are called Gaya, the expositions or Vyakarana, the miraculous accounts of Buddha Dhamma, desires not any of the talks of other recluses or Brahmins of the crowds. Now this is a very interesting phrase indeed. Number one, Piṅgiyānī he doesn't say, oh, the Buddha has got the 32 marks. He doesn't say, oh, the Buddha is born from a high Kshatriya class. Nothing personal. He's saying, I'm drawn to the Buddha because of the Dharma. And not only that, he describes how he feels. He says, if you have tasted something really the best food, you don't want any other food. Right? So he's using the imagery of taste. He says, once you have tasted something good, you don't want anything else. Now, taste is a very powerful imagery in the suttas, in the Vinaya. In the Paharada Sutta, for example, there are 8 analogies of the ocean. And the most famous of the 8 analogies is, just as the ocean has only one taste, the taste of salt, so too the Dhamma has only one taste, the taste of freedom, liberation. Okay? So we are reminded of that too. So in other words, this Piṅgiyānī feels liberated. We are not told what level he has reached, but from the way he addresses the Buddha, it's not likely he has even attained stream winning yet. He definitely has what's called some kind of worldly faith in the devotion to the Buddha, definitely. And maybe later on something good will happen. The next thing to note in this paragraph, brackets 1, is he mentions 4 kinds of teachings. In other words, the Buddha's teachings is divided into 4. Now remember this basic rule of thumb. The smaller the teaching is, the earlier it's likely to be. For example, here you have only 4 aspects of the Dhamma. Later you have 6, 12, and so on, 8, and so on. 8, Mahayana have 12. So you begin to see as Buddhism developed over the years, the categories of the teaching grew. So here you only have 4 categories. The first are the suttas, they call discourses. Second are mixed. You have prose and verse, that's the mixed discourses. And 3 are the Vyakaranas, these are explanation in detail. Usually they are question answers, catechisms. And then number 4 is a very interesting one, Abhuta Dhammas, the miraculous accounts. For many years I was wondering what's all this, and it didn't really attract me. I said, oh, miraculous accounts, we just try not to bother about them. But recently I have finished translating the Acharya Abhuta Dhamma Sutta, which are full of miraculous stories of the Buddha. In fact, volume 52, it's got all these, many of such stories. So this form a category by itself, all these amazing stories of the Buddha, extraordinary stories of the Buddha. So, to be quite honest with you, for a while I told myself, wow, this is quite difficult to teach. How do you teach a class of intelligent people with all these kind of stories? They're likely to reject these stories. But recently, when I started translating this, I realized we can approach these stories from what's called the psychology of myth approach. They are symbolic in some ways of deeper teachings. Right? So this is the category, the miraculous accounts, usually life of the Buddha, or life of the Bodhisattva rather. The Buddha from the time he was born until just before awakening. So these are the 4 categories of teachings. Okay. So here, the last line, Piṅgiyānī says that he desires not any of the talks of other recluses of Brahmins, of the crowds. Notice, of the crowds. So in other words, these other teachers, they talk to big crowds, but he says, no, I'm not drawn to them. They're just populist teachers, so there's no wisdom in them. Right? So he's, in a sense, this is like a lion roar. He's showing his faith in the Buddha's teaching. Then, number 2, he says, just as one, sir, overcome by hunger and weakness, receives a honey cake, will enjoy the sweet, delicious taste just by itself wherever he eats it. So too, sir, a person who hears the Dharma, Master Gautama's Dharma, and then he lists all the teachings, will feel satisfied, will gaining satisfaction, wins an inspired heart just from them again and again. Notice it as a repetition. He feels joyful again and again just to listen to the Dharma. Okay? I mean, this is what I myself notice whenever I translate the suttas. You feel joy. And then 3, Piṅgiyānī continues, just as one, sir, who has found a piece of sandalwood, whether yellow sandalwood or red sandalwood, will enjoy only pure fragrance wherever he smells it, whether at the bottom or in the middle or at the top. So too, right? He says, well, the Buddha's teaching and all these 4 categories are like that. So here he uses the idea of fragrance. Apparently, among the Indians, they don't seem to burn this sandalwood. You know, we over here we burn. There they kind of like they use it like that, or maybe they turn it into powder. They pulverize it, so you get this really amazing fragrance. I have seen, in fact, one of my devotees in Malaysia. I don't know what she did. She probably sprinkled the powder in her books, you know? And when she presented one of the books to me, it's really fragrant. You know, it's really, you feel like eating the book. It's got this fantastic, wonderful sandalwood smell. Okay? So here, Piṅgiyānī says, so this person gains gladness, right? Mental joy from these teachings again and again. Right? Notice the terms he has been using. Number 1, satisfaction. Number 2, gladness. No? Number 2 is gladness. So there is this idea of joy, in other words. Then number 4, just as a person, sir, who is sick, in pain, gravely ill, and a skilled doctor were to instantly heal him of his sickness, so too, when you hear the Dharma, you feel like that. You feel so good. You feel your sorrow, lamentation, physical pain and mental pain and despair vanish away just on their account. You just feel happy. Right, that moment of reading the sutta. I mean, right now, you know, if you really just open up your heart and mind to the sutta, you feel so peaceful right here, right now. Okay? And then the last one, number 5. Piṅgiyānī says, just as there was a delighted lotus pond with clear, cool, agreeable water, with a pleasant and delightful bank of white sand, and then a person oppressed and overcome by the heat, tired, parched and thirsty, were to come along, and having plunged into it, bathed and drunk, so that all his affliction, tiredness, and feverishness would subside. So too, right, says Piṅgiyānī, by listening to the Dharma in all the 4 categories, he feels that all his afflictions, tiredness, and feverishness would subside just on that account. Right, so he feels happy, no more suffering. So this is a declaration of faith, the 5-fold declaration of Piṅgiyānī. Now, so here, because Piṅgiyānī says this, probably they are good friends, Karna Pālī and Piṅgiyānī. So Karna Pālī, the listener, the one who started the conversation, was really inspired. Now section 2. You notice a numbering here. You have this big chunk of numbers and then suddenly it becomes number 2, quite a long one. So, yeah, this is how those early Western editors about 100 years ago, they did it. So I have to break down into smaller paragraphs, use some decimal points to make it easier to refer to. Anyway, so in section 2, we have the narrator tells us, when this was said, the brahmin Kāraṇa Pālī rose from his seat, arranged his upper robe onto one shoulder, placing his right knee on the ground, saluted in the direction of the Blessed One, with the lotus palms, uttering the Udana inspired utterance, Namo, tassa, bhagavato, arhato, samma sambuddhassa. So it says it's 3 times. So you notice This phrase is well known. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully awakened Buddha. Okay? So here you see the joy in Piṅgiyānī also benefiting and inspiring joy in his friend Kāraṇa too. But notice how Kāraṇa behaves. He rises, he stands up, then he arranges his robe on one shoulder. Because he's going to bow, so he puts all on one shoulder. So this is not just a monk section, it's also a layman section, because they wear kind of similar style of robes, if you like, colors may be different. So he puts on one side, and then this is the layman's way of kneeling. And later on, the Buddhist sutras follow this, the Mahayana Buddhist sutra follow this style too. Right knee on the ground, and the other leg is up, and then put his palms together, facing the direction of the Buddha. Here again, we have this directional worship. Wherever the Buddha is, they face in that direction, and then he says homage to him, the Blessed One, and so on, namo tassa. And then he turns to Piṅgiyānī 2.2. Excellent Master Piṅgiyānī, excellent Master Piṅgiyānī. Just as one were to place upright what had been overturned, or were to reveal what was hidden, or were to show the way to one who was lost, or were to hold up a lamp in the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way, in numerous ways, the Dharma has been declared by Master Piṅgiyānī. Master Piṅgiyānī, I go to Master Gotama for refuge, to the Dharma and to the community of monks. May Master Piṅgiyānī remember me as a lay person who has gone forth for refuge from this day forth for life. Why, this is a very important, very rare text here. This is refuge going. But who is the person that Kāraṇa goes for refuge before? Now, he doesn't go for refuge in Piṅgiyānī. Piṅgiyānī acts as his witness. Yeah. So this is where you don't always need to go to a monk to take refuge, you see. Of course, if the monk is there, is a virtuous monk, that's very good. You want him to witness that you now are devoted to the three jewels. But here, because Piṅgiyānī is himself a devout person, Kāraṇa felt so inspired, says, okay, you are my witness. I am going to take refuge in the Buddha, in the three jewels. So please remember this, right? Taking refuge is not necessarily with the Sangha. Here you find as a virtuous lay person, you can also ask him to be your witness, right? So although you may not have, say, monks in some remote area in South America or in North America or some remote part of Australia or Tasmania or wherever in China, you can still find someone who loves the Dharma and say, please be my witness, I take refuge in the three jewels. So this is a beautiful teaching in that sense. Right? Okay, we have now started our new year with a new study, and let us reflect on this, the presence of the Dharma inside us. In other words, this teaching that we have handed down to us is capable of inspiring inner peace, inner clarity. Inner peace means joy, inner clarity means wisdom. Right? So these are two things which are very important in our life, which guide us so that our life has quality, goodness, and happiness. And in doing so, we go through life enjoying whatever is before us. Unlike some people, they may have a lot of things, but they're still not happy. So in a sense, we are reflecting on how the Dharma makes us truly happy. Reflecting in this way is very wholesome karma, but the power of such karma let us cultivate loving kindness towards ourselves for our own happiness and good health, and wisdom and courage, so that we aspire to attain at least stream winning in this life itself. And by the same token, by the power of the three jewels, let us send out our loving kindness to our loved ones. May they be well and happy. To those who have been kind and supportive of us, may they be well and happy too. And to those who are practicing the Dharma and seeking awakening in this life, may they attain that goal as they have aspired to. And finally, let us send our loving kindness to all those people who have difficulties in the teaching, who are lost, that they may find the true path in this life itself too. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.